As you might have noticed from the title of this video, it is labeled as the sad story of Mexico. I'm going to try to make this not seem too sad, although it is kind of a sad story. But anyway, let's get started. So as you can see on the screen portrayed in this video, this is a satellite map of Mexico, or the United Mexican States, as it is officially called. And we're going to get into a little bit of history here to explain this little story that I'm trying to tell you. So it starts with the Aztec people. If you don't know who they are, then two things. One, you should, and secondly, they were the people that lived in Mexico before it was taken over by Spain. Yeah, and that's really all I can say. I mean, if you don't know that the Spanish used to own Mexico, then just read a history book or go to Wikipedia or something like that. I'm not here to explain that. That's not what this video is about. But anyway, the Aztec people, they actually were not native peoples of Mexico, because they came from a northern location, which was over here, as you can see that I'm highlighting with the mouse. It's in present-day California, and it was on this little island in the middle of a small Antarctica sort of shaped lake. And it was this island. It's not a very nice place to live because it's in the middle of a desert, but it is near, like, trees over here, so if they need lumber for whatever reason, they can get some. And if they need, well, I guess if they need water, they can just go to the lake right here. But that might be a salt lake, I don't know. I should have done more research on this. Their legend says that it was a freshwater lake, but I'm not sure how accurate that is, so maybe it can't be trusted. So anyway, the Aztecs, originally, according to their religious beliefs and legend, came from this island, and it was called Aztlan, Aztlan, and that's where the name for their people, the Aztecs, is derived from. And eventually, one of their gods, they had many of them, they were polytheistic, but one of their gods told them, supposedly, that they need to leave this island, go to the mainland, so, like, on the other side of the lake, and then travel in some random direction until you find another island, a different island, with an eagle sitting on top of a large cactus, preferably a saguaro, that is eating a snake. I know that's very specific, so in case you didn't catch that, what they had to find was another island in a lake with an eagle sitting on top of a cactus eating a snake. That's very specific. And supposedly they found this eventually after going a very, very long distance. And they found that, hang on, I have to turn everything. Yeah, they found it right here. Yeah, right about there. And I know from this map there's no islands here, but that's a different story. The Spanish government dried up the lake because they wanted gold, I think, or something like that. So yeah, the lake was right around here. It was called Lake Texcoco. And yeah, supposedly there was a big cactus right in the middle of it, with an eagle sitting on top of it, eating a snake. I'm not sure why you would want to live somewhere with snakes and eagles large enough to catch a snake and eat it, but I guess that's what they wanted to do. And what they did is they established their capital city, like a major, very advanced civilization called Tenochtitlan. And I know, as you could see before, it was labeled as Mexico City, but that's because it was later renamed after Spanish conquest. But the problem here, and where it gets a little bit sad, is that there were already indigenous people living here. And most people think that the Aztec people were indigenous people. They were indigenous in the sense that they came from an area of the North American continent, but they weren't indigenous to this area. So basically what they did was the Aztecs allied with other civilizations from the north where they came from to kill as many native inhabitants of Tenochtitlan as they possibly could. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. There isn't a lot of documented evidence of exactly what they did, but we have a pretty good idea. And through warfare, purely, the Aztecs killed almost all of the indigenous people here, and most of the people that they didn't kill just fled and ran away to somewhere else, like Central America or South America or something like that. So yeah, these people weren't really too nice. I mean, that's not to say for all of them. I'm sure there were plenty of good Aztecs, but overall, they weren't exactly the best people. Or at least their head leaders or whoever orchestrated all of this. And yeah, that was the first sad part, but it gets worse from here. And as a little bit of background information for the next event that I'm going to discuss, the Aztecs had a god, one of their many gods, called Quetzalcoatl, and they believed that this god would eventually come down to Earth to meet the Aztec people, I guess to just have a little conversation or something, to see if they're being holy enough or whatever. And that this person, Quetzalcoatl, or God, I guess they're not a person, they would arrive on a boat in the ocean from the east, and that they would have light skin. And a really strange coincidence happened when the Spaniards, or Spanish people, arrived to take over the area and explore. And coincidentally, the Spanish came from Spain, which is to the east of the Aztec Empire, and they came on a big boat, and they obviously had lighter skin because Spain is further north than Mexico is. So upon their arrival, the Spanish were very warmly greeted, not because they were visitors, but because they were thought of as gods, because, I mean, it all matched up. They had light skin, they had come from the east, they were on a very advanced looking boat, and yeah, that was enough to convince the Aztecs. But unfortunately, the Aztecs were very wrong, because while they were busy giving the Spaniards a bunch of hugs, the Spaniards gave them hugs too, but actually used their swords to stab them in the back, literally. That part was a little bit made up, but I'm sure it probably happened. So, yeah, basically what the Spaniards did was they used warfare to overthrow the Aztec Empire and treat the Aztecs unfairly, which is pretty much exactly what the Aztecs did to the native inhabitants of Mexico. And yeah, it was really just the perpetrator became the victim. Usually it's the saying goes the other way around, but yeah, the perpetrator was the Aztecs originally, because they were the ones who were bullying around the indigenous peoples of the area, but then eventually they became the victims because the Spanish beat them all up, because the Spanish thought that these people were the indigenous people, so they just wanted to kill them instead of deporting them or whatever. So anyway, fast forward a few hundred years into the 18-teens and 1820s, so early 1800s basically. Mexico revolted against Spain and won, and they all celebrated and all that stuff. That's all good. But here's where things start to take a very sad turn. When the Mexicans won, by that point, the vast majority of the population of Mexico was of either Aztec descent, like ancestry, or of Spanish ancestry, with most of them being like half and half roughly. They call that mestizo. And yeah, so when Mexico won their revolution and fight for independence, they created a flag. I'll use that as an example. And what that flag does is it reflects the Spanish and Aztec identity, but it leaves out the identity of the ones who were victims all along, which is the original indigenous people of Mexico before the Aztecs arrived. So the green and red represent like war, bloodshed, prosperity, or whatever. That's not important. But when I zoom in here, you can see that famous eagle eating a snake on top of a cactus on top of the Lake Texcoco, on this island, which is kind of shaped like a pillow. But anyway, yeah, so this symbol in the middle is supposed to represent the Aztecs in Mexico, and the white background is supposed to represent the Spaniards in Mexico, because the white represents Catholicism. And not that there's anything wrong with that religion, but that was the main justification that the Spaniards used for killing the Aztecs, because what they did was they said, hey, we want to kill all these people because we want this land, and we understand that they're probably going to think that our religion is ridiculous, so we're just going to tell them that you have to convert to our religion, Catholicism, or else we're going to kill you. And most people said no to Catholicism, so they killed them. And eventually everyone in Mexico just said, you know what, we'll just become Catholic so you don't kill us. Not a very good strategy. It's kind of evil by the Spaniards. So yeah, this middle of the flag is just evil on top of evil. The white is the killing of the Aztecs, like what they used to justify it. And then this eagle here is the Aztecs, and they weren't too nice either, because, as I said earlier in the video, they killed they tried to kill all of the people in Tenochtitlan, and what would become the Aztec Empire, later New Spain, later Mexico. So, yeah, and as you might have caught on to at this point, the original inhabitants of Mexico are not reflected at all in the Mexican flag, and they're not really given any sort of special status in Mexico, which is kind of why this is a sad story, because like Mexico celebrates the Aztecs and the Spaniards, both of which were like the perpetrators, the not so nice people, like the people that were bad for the country. They caused all the problems. But the people who didn't do anything, they're not reflected in the flag or the government or protection really at all. So it's kind of sad that Mexico is celebrating the bad guys and doesn't care about the good guys. And I should add here that not all Spaniards are bad, and not all Aztec people are bad. It was just a few bad people. What I'm trying to say in this video is just that Mexico is celebrating the bad things that have been done and not celebrating the neutral or perhaps good things that have been done. And it's a sad story, and I do think that Mexico can recover from this. They just need to have a little bit of reforms, like talking with other people and change their flag, change their beliefs, sort of, maybe not push Catholicism as much, and maybe get rid of the symbol in the middle, and just use equality. I mean, they improved a lot since the Spaniards, because when Mexico was ruled by Spain, the only people who were treated fairly were the Spanish-descended people. And they've gotten better with that. They treat the Aztecs well, too, but instead of just having the Aztecs and the Spanish as the celebrated people there, they should highlight all of the cultures. So, yeah. But anyway, that is all I have for this video, and it's a little different than the first couple of videos, although there was still some mapping involved, like with this whole thing over here. But yeah, it's more of a informative and less humor-based content. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.